Just 7 days remaining in this transfer window where we have seen it all. We have got so much to bring you today. From Mikel Arteta to Eddie Howe, Arne Slot and Pep Guardiola is going to be live at 12:30. No doubt Guardiola is going to be talking about his latest signing, Ilkay Gundogan, who is back at Manchester City. He returns after a year away from the club on a free from Barcelona. He has signed a one-year deal plus the option of a further year. So this is what he has said. My 7 years at Manchester City were a time of pure contentment for me, both on and off the pitch. I grew as a person and a player, developed a special relationship with the City fans and enjoyed amazing success. It was an exceptional period in my life. To have the opportunity to return here means so much. Everyone knows the respect I have for Pep. He is the best manager in the world, and working with him every day makes you a better player. You feel constantly challenged, which for any professional is exactly what you want. I cannot wait to work with him again. And what can I say about my teammates here at City? They are world-class footballers. I'm genuinely delighted to have the chance to train and play alongside them. Honestly, I cannot wait to wear the City shirt again. And it sounds like it from that statement. Well, to Arsenal now, Mikel Arteta wouldn't discuss the potential signing of midfielder Mikel Merino. It's our understanding, though, that Arsenal have agreed a deal in principle with the Real Sociedad midfielder to sign him. The fee in the region of £32.6 million.
No, and you know that I cannot talk about any player that is not with us. There's still time in the market, both ways, for all the managers, for all the teams here, and you can tell how busy it's getting.
Can we assume it's something that is going to happen soon?
I don't assume. The full focus is on the players that we have at the moment, the big match that we have tomorrow against Aston Villa, and that's where we're at.
I think I'm going to get a similar answer, but I'm going to ask about Eddie Nketiah leaving the club as well, and there's interest from Nottingham Forest. Do you expect Eddie to go over the next week?
I expect Eddie to train with us today to be prepared for tomorrow, and that's it. And whatever happens, it will happen if it's good for everybody.
OK, well, it took a while, but it looks like Mikel's got his man. Mikel?
You're bang on the money, Bella, aren't you? They remained in talks for a few weeks, didn't they? But crucially, that agreement in principle is there, even though Mikel Arteta didn't want to give too much away. He's not going to speak about it until he's had a medical and that transfer is complete. But he only had a year left in his contract, and so clearly Arsenal didn't want to overpay for a player they could have signed for free next summer, or they could have got him to sign a pre-contract agreement in January. So they didn't want to overpay. But I think what was crucial for Arsenal is that Merino was keen on the move, and Arsenal were really encouraged by his desire to join Arsenal. He made it clear to Sociedad towards the end of last season that he had a dream of playing in the Premier League again. He had that year at Newcastle as a youngster, and he's very close to getting back to the top flight. And we'll see the best of him because he was too young at Newcastle, didn't really have the opportunity. But now he's at 28, he's at the peak of his career, and he could make a real impact for Arsenal as they look to go one better this season.
What do you think he'll add, Dave?
Plenty to that Arsenal midfield. I mean, a lot of people are talking about him being a replacement or a kind of different type of player that they've missed when they lost Granit Xhaka. I think they are slightly different. I don't think Merino has quite the passing range that Granit Xhaka had at Arsenal and still has at Bayer Leverkusen, but certainly Merino adds a real bit of steel into that midfield. He plays on that left-hand 8 position. Already knows Martin Odegaard from his time at La Real. And I think, you know, he's a player that wins a lot of duels, was a serial duel winner in La Liga. Great in the air, will be a box threat for attacking set pieces. Also, very worthy player in his own penalty area, defending set pieces as well with that aerial presence. But I think, you know, he is someone who can also contribute in those attacking phases. So I think he's a very good player, a very good price as well, I think, for Arsenal. I think they've identified him with, you know, the time length on his contract, and I think he really does add something to that Arsenal midfield.
OK, we're going to pause this chat for a moment because Liverpool are preparing to face Brentford live on Super Sunday, and Peter Stevenson is watching the players train now. Let's get to Peter. Hi there.
Afternoon, what a wonderful day we have now in Liverpool. All that early morning rain that soaked us has disappeared, and Liverpool, as you say, getting ready for Brentford on Sunday afternoon at 4:30. Arne Slot's first home game in the Premier League in charge of Liverpool. Huge excitement and anticipation, I'm sure. Let me stand to one side and you can see exactly what's going on at the moment. They've been out for about 4 or 5 minutes, just going through a fairly strenuous warm-up. With all the coaching staff and Arne Slot just keeping a close eye on everybody. Let's be frank, this is a Liverpool squad that needs to close a 9-point gap. That's how far they finished behind Manchester City last season, finishing in third. So it's a squad geared up for challenging for that title, no doubt. Also, of course, busy, of course, with Champions League commitments as well. Eyebrows raised, I suppose, in recent weeks that they haven't strengthened at the moment, and I'm guessing Gundogan's arrival back at Manchester City might also have Liverpool fans saying, well, what are we doing? Why aren't we strengthening? The champions are strengthening, and they already have a formidable squad, so that might produce more transfer talk in the coming days here at Liverpool. But today in his news conference, Arne Slot, very, very calm, very composed, very relaxed. He says he's inherited a very good squad, and there's no panic at all with regard to new signings. He says, when I asked him about being nervous, I mean, let's face it, Anfield is a huge stage, crowd of more than 60,000 in there. The eyes of the football world will be on the new Liverpool boss at home in the league for the first time to see how they cope. But he says no sense of nerves whatsoever. He's busy with this preparation as we're seeing at the moment. And he says he trusts his team. And I suspect that's not just the team that we're seeing warming up at the moment, but it's the whole backroom staff as well. As regards to signings, it's fair to say Arne Slot's a manager who keeps his cards close to his chest. When we have news, we will let you know, he says, but clearly we're expecting Georgi Mamardashvili, the Valencia keeper, to complete a move in the next 24 hours. That's what all the signs are at the moment. A lot of speculation this morning about Jared Branthwaite maybe making what would be a highly controversial move for Everton fans across Stanley Park to Liverpool. That's because the centre-half position debate rumbles on a little bit after what happened last week at Ipswich with young Jarrell Quansah coming off to be replaced at half-time by Konate. Quansah has picked up a small injury in training. We're not sure whether that will mean he's part of the matchday squad on Sunday. We'll have to wait and see. But clearly, centre-half, a position that had caused some debate today in the news conference. The manager insisting that Virgil van Dijk remains his number one centre-half, and you would sense it's, although he said it's 2 from 4, you sense it's one other from 3 to play alongside Virgil van Dijk. But there we are. It's Liverpool to face Brentford. Brentford, of course, coming with 2 recently signed players from Liverpool in Carvalho and Van den Berg. So that'll be interesting. Arne Slot saying he hopes they don't particularly return and have a good game on Sunday. We'll have to wait and find out, though. For now, I'll hand you back to the studio.
Thanks ever so much, Peter. OK, we're just going to get back to the Arsenal chat for a moment. We were talking about Mikel Merino. With him in, how does the squad look to you? Do you think there's anywhere else that they need to strengthen?
I think they look really strong at the moment when you look at their defence, their midfield, their attack to a certain extent. I say that because when you look at, their forward areas, they really are heavily reliant on Saka having a great season, and he's done that for back-to-back seasons. He's been that player for them. Kai Havertz, he came in as a player that was going to replace Xhaka. Didn't really work out for him. Going to replace a versatile player, went up front and he started scoring. But now that we're seeing links with Eddie Nketiah moving away, Gabby Jesus will be the only out-and-out striker who hasn't really had seasons where he scored back-to-back. And I think City have the edge because they obviously have Erling Haaland. So I'm not saying that they're not going to challenge, because we know that Arsenal have done that for the last 2 seasons without these players that they've been linked with this year. But I think if they really want to get over their edge, they might need to see if there's someone available. But we know there's not that many strikers that are going to do Erling Haaland numbers. So it's going to be difficult. But I think Arteta will know that that's an area that they might need to look at.
Well, Nottingham Forest are in advanced talks with Arsenal over the signing of forward Eddie Nketiah. Some details on this from Dharmesh Sheth on the Transfer Centre blog, which you can find on the website. It looks like the discussions are centred on the structure of the fee and performance-related add-ons. The total fee is understood to be in the region of £30 million. James, he needs minutes, doesn't he? So would this be a good match for him, Forest?
I think so. Let's bear in mind he's not started a single Premier League match in 2024, and whilst he's made 168 appearances for Arsenal, almost 100 of those have been off the bench. Now, potentially goes to Nottingham Forest. They've got two really decent strikers there in Chris Wood and Tayo Awoniyi. Now, under Nuno Espirito Santo, Chris Wood scored 12 goals in 17 appearances. He's had an incredible impact under Nuno. He is 32, though, so clearly Nottingham Forest are planning for the medium term as well, with somebody like Nketiah, who's 25. And Awoniyi, whilst he is a great goal scorer, he has been injury prone. So it should result in more first-team minutes if he was to go to Nottingham Forest. And it is really exciting what Forest are building there when you look at the attacking options they have now with Callum Hudson-Odoi with a point to prove, Anthony Elanga, Morgan Gibbs-White supporting a striker. If I was Eddie Nketiah, I'd be thinking I could get 20 goals a season here because I'm going to get some brilliant service from these young attacking players. So it's a sign that makes sense. I don't think he's a guaranteed starter if he was going now, but you think the long-term plan would be for him to be their number 9.
Well, earlier we heard from Arteta and he was asked whether he's tempted to make a move for Chelsea's Raheem Sterling, and this is what he said on that.
No, I can talk with my time with Raheem. That was exceptional. I think we built a really strong relationship together. He was unbelievable at the time that we were together, and he taught me a lot as well about the individuals, how the players think, how we give them support and help them, and it's someone that I really have strong feelings about.
Now, Manuel Ugarte and Carlos Soler have both been left out of the Paris Saint-Germain squad for tonight's Ligue 1 game against Montpellier. Talks between United and PSG over a deal for the Uruguayan midfielder Ugarte are at an advanced stage. This is the second game, James, that Ugarte has been left out of for PSG. There was a gap in valuation. How do you see this one going?
There still is, I think, a gap in valuation. I think there's still a few things that need to be thrashed out, but crucially, there definitely is a willingness from all parties to get this done, whether it's Manchester United, whether it's PSG, whether it's Ugarte as well. There's no guarantee a move will happen. I think talks are at an advanced stage now, but if United could sanction further exits, it would be much easier for them to finance a permanent deal as opposed to a loan with an obligation to buy. But it definitely feels like we're moving in a positive direction. And if United were to get this done over the course of the next few days, it'll be 5 transfers that Erik ten Hag has got through the door very early on in this season after getting the backing in the summer. So I think he'll have a squad ready to compete now.
Well, speaking of exits, Juventus are trying to sign Manchester United forward Jadon Sancho. It's thought that they've already discussed personal terms, and Juventus were trying to do a deal at the start of the window, but they couldn't meet the valuation. So, Dave, do you think this one will get over the line?
Difficult to say right now. I think Juventus have to do some kind of financial juggling a little bit in order to get this deal done. They've got interest in other players as well, Nico Gonzalez at Fiorentina, but they're definitely after a wide forward. I think given the fact that we are 7 days away now from the deadline, you feel like negotiating time is at a premium, and therefore maybe another loan with an option or obligation. I think United's preference would be an obligation at the very minimum to make sure that Jadon Sancho, they recoup some money, and also that his future is sorted one way or the other. I think in January, when he went to Borussia Dortmund, United actually negotiated a pretty good financial package for him to go there. I think it was around £3.5 million as an initial loan fee for just 5 months. And then also, Dortmund were paying a significant chunk of his wages, and that ended up being pretty much around the 100% mark of those wages, simply because of the achievements that Dortmund made last season, getting to the Champions League final. So that, for United in January, turned out to be a pretty good financial package. So if it gets down to the point where, OK, it's going to have to be a loan with an obligation, I think if they could recoup some money early and kick the can down the road for the financial full transfer, that might end up being the case.
I'm going to fast forward a little bit. What does success look like for Manchester United and Erik ten Hag this season?
I think it's interesting because when you look at his first 2 seasons, he's obviously won trophies in both seasons, but I think the consistency throughout the season is what has frustrated, himself, the players and the fans as well. But I think because they've, plugged a few of the holes that they had last year in terms of the injuries and the age profiles, I think it's just development with the squad. You know, it's going to be difficult to match what City and Arsenal are doing. They're rarely losing, they're rarely conceding as well. Ten Hag is still quite new to this role, but obviously he's managing one of the biggest clubs in the world, so he knows there's an expectancy to win. So it's finding that balance of getting to those positions, of getting to the latter stages of, you know, the Europa League, FA Cup, Carabao Cup, and bridging that gap between Arsenal and City.
Do you agree?
I think it depends what the parameters that Ineos have set for Erik ten Hag. Obviously, they looked at, it was no secret, they looked at different managers in the summer. So what do they expect? Do they expect top four? Do they expect that kind of progression given the backing that they've given in the transfer market? Or do they see progression as a higher placed finish than 8th? At least they have to be in the running for top four deep into this season, perhaps through to the spring at the very minimum, to show that kind of progression. And I think, you know, playing style's been talked about a lot. Ten Hag wants them to be the best transition team in the world. They have to start showing that.
OK, guys, a reminder that Pep Guardiola is coming up live at 12:30. He's going to be Pep Talk, not Transfer Talk. Next, we're going to hear, though, from Eddie Howe on Kieran Trippier's future at Newcastle. Hi, welcome back. Let's get to Wolves now. They've seen some big players leave in recent weeks. Will they be busy with incomings before the deadline? Let's find out. Anton Tolui is going to be speaking to Gary O'Neill later. Hiya, Anton. Who are they hoping to sign then?
Well, look, we all know Wolves have some money in their back pocket after Max Kilman left, after Pedro Neto left, and that Max Kilman replacement will be high on the list of Wolves' priorities in the last week of the window. We know they're interested in Dara O'Shea, who's at Burnley, who may well be more open to a centre-back departure, considering they signed Joe Worrell from Nottingham Forest yesterday. So that's one to look out for. Brentford also interested in him. Of course, remember, O'Shea came through the ranks just down the road at West Bromwich Albion, so it'll be an interesting return to the West Midlands if he does come back. Another player to look out for, of course, is Aaron Ramsdale. We know that Wolves have been in communication with Arsenal about a potential loan deal with an obligation or a chance to make it permanent at the end of the deal. The negotiations have been ongoing this week, but they're not the only Premier League team interested in Ramsdale as well. So that's two players that Wolves want, but there's competition. We know clubs are going late in the window. We know there's going to be a lot of activity over the next 7 days or so. Wolves will be one of the clubs that are going to be busy. We'll hear from Gary O'Neill at about 1 o'clock.
Thanks, Anton. Let's get to Newcastle now and speculation surrounding the future of defender Kieran Trippier. His manager, Eddie Howe, expressed surprise at the rumours, praising Trippier's first-class attitude.
The situation is business as usual. Trips has trained really well this week. I'm surprised at a lot of the stories that have come out. A valuable member of the squad. His professionalism has been first class. He's trained really well since he's come back from the Euros. I think he's only had 2 weeks training, hence the decision to not start him at the weekend. It continues to be really valued by all of us.
You can see why he would want Trippier to stay, can't you?
100%. What a role he's played in Newcastle's resurgence after joining in January 2022. Newcastle were in the bottom 3 at that moment in time. And look what they've done since then, finishing the top 4, reaching the Champions League. Last season wasn't as successful, but the foundations are there for Newcastle to go and have a really good season. Tino Livramento has been really impressive when he's got the opportunity for Newcastle. It looks like he's going to get an opportunity on that right flank after having a full pre-season, impressing in pre-season and in the cameos last season. And Trippier, after coming back from the Euros, obviously a little bit delayed in coming back, which has given Livramento the nod. And Newcastle did turn down that big bid from Bayern Munich for him in January. I think Livramento is really exciting. 21 years of age, we know what he can do. But in the back of Eddie Howe's head, he'll be thinking, well, Livramento only started 12 games last season because of the horrendous injury he had at Southampton. He didn't start any of the season before that. So it's a lot to ask of Tino Livramento to start 38 Premier League matches this season. So he'll be thinking we need to have options in each area. And whilst Trippier's role may be waning on the pitch, I think he's still valuable for that team.
Well, speaking of big characters, Ilkay Gundogan is back at Manchester City, and we are going to hear from Pep Guardiola live next. We're going to get to Pep Guardiola's live press conference soon. But before that, let's just continue our chat about Newcastle. They are edging closer for this deal with Crystal Palace for Mark Gay. We've been talking about this a lot, I know. But Dave, do you think this weekend might be the time we see it happen?
I mean, I don't know. I don't know. But
Strong
I think,
from you, Dave.
But we did speak to Keith Downey yesterday, who's obviously an expert in everything going on at Newcastle. And I think from the Newcastle perspective, there is some optimism that they can get this deal done. There's obviously been talks ongoing between Crystal Palace and Newcastle for a while. A bid was turned down last week. Newcastle went back in again. And I think when that bid was turned down, the talks kept going. It wasn't a flat no from Crystal Palace. So I think that is what has given Newcastle a little bit of encouragement on that front. So I think certainly from Newcastle's point of view, they're optimistic. But from Crystal Palace's, I think, they've got a valuation. And therefore, if it's not met, I think they're quite prepared to be keeping Mark Gay and involve him in their first team. So it could go one way or the other. I don't think it's a certainty that Newcastle get him. But from Palace's point of view, they know he's got 2 years left. So this is the final time, really, that they can extract maximum value from the player.
Have they done enough business?
I think they are targeting an area that they realised last season affected their position in terms of their defence. But I feel like we don't talk about keeping the stars at the club. Bruno Guimaraes, Isak, Gordon were all linked with moves away, and they're all still there. And the fact that they're able to have them moving forward, it shows that they've really bought into the project. They know what it means to play for Newcastle. They've experienced the Champions League football as well. And I think now that the average age of their defence seems like it's decreasing with the signings that they have made, I think they have done enough to really kick on and try and solidify their European spot.
OK, so just ahead of this press conference with Pep Guardiola, no doubt he's going to be asked straight away about Ilkay Gundogan. It's a bit of a love story, isn't it? We know how Pep feels about him. Gundogan's statement as well was gushing, wasn't it? They're going to be really excited. Are they getting the same Gundogan that they had before?
I think so. I think when you look at what he did last year, he still played over 50 appearances, wasn't able to succeed as much as he probably would have wanted to at Barcelona, but it didn't happen because he had fallen out of form or he'd been in a position where they're thinking they want to get someone younger and fresh. It was more of the fact that, his wages and everything that's going on with Barcelona and Manchester City have taken that opportunity to get a player that has contributed so much to their success in the last few years. He's won everything there and he's still wanting to win more. And if you're a City fan, you're looking at this signing and saying, we don't necessarily... Sometimes you get too hung up on the fresh new signings, but we've seen in previous years with other clubs, Didier going back to Chelsea, Ronaldo going back to United, all of these signings can really lift the spirit and lift the morale in the club as well. So I think it's a great signing for City.
It's quite rare, I think. You mentioned some of those players going back to former clubs, but it feels quite rare that a player goes back and he's still at the peak of his powers. And not only that, but also the setup is perfect. He knows the manager, knows the system, knows exactly what's expected of him. When we talk about players going back, like Ronaldo, great player, maybe not at the peak of his powers, maybe the setup isn't or wasn't quite right at Manchester United. And that happens quite a bit when players go back. The expectation, it's the nostalgia that gets people excited. And then when they get there, they can still show the quality, but something or other sometimes isn't quite as it was. But I think with this Gundogan thing, it feels like it's the perfect reunion. It does feel like a perfect match, really, because I think, yes, he's going to turn 34 in October, but Man City, and they may still strengthen it in attacking areas in the few days to come, but they do need to bring in support to help Rodri and to help Haaland. Gundogan can play both as a 6, as an 8, he can play as a false 9 if required. But they're looking for targets, players that are good, but don't expect to play every minute. But we'll hear from Pep shortly.
Right now, Pep Guardiola is speaking to the media. Let's hear from him live on Transfer Talk.
Yeah, a lot. When most of the times all the managers, we said that finish the transfer window, everything can happen. This is the real proof. So it was a completely surprise and unexpected. And it happened. We know him quite well, me personally, but the staff and the players and everyone. And the quality that he played last season in Barcelona, like he played in a high level, consistency, playing a lot of minutes, games, and producing a lot. It was a We didn't have any doubts, but the possibility was open. And yeah, absolutely delighted that he's back.
I was going to say, was it a no-brainer when Cheeky put the idea to you that Gundogan could return? Was it an easy yes from you?
Yeah.
What is his role going to change this time? Now he's a year older, or you found a solution in your squad without it?
Of course, he's not a teenager anymore. But the reason why we decided the chance to do it is for the level he played last season. So his season last season was not, playing the level that we expect he's going to deliver. Maybe you have to think about it, but even the Euros, playing with national team with Nagelsmann, played really, really good as well. So that's why, and he knows what we want to do. He doesn't need adapt. He knows the city, he knows the club, the mates, and the way we want to play. So we'll be immediately, settle. I guess good, and that's why we could do it, and we did it.
Have the players voted for their leadership group yet? Because Ilkay was captain, so would you expect him to be back in that 5?
No, I don't know.
Fred, and then PLP in the middle.
Hi, Pep. Ilkay said in his interview on his return just how important your role as his manager was. He was obviously so successful here. He said you're one of the best managers, if not the best manager in the world. How does that make you feel when a player returns to the club and speaks so highly of you?
Yeah, I appreciate it, but the important is that we want to come back. So, Cheeky got a message from Cheeky, so I want to talk to you, want to call you. Okay, so he called me and asked me the situation I was. So the chance to come back, if you would like it, we say yes immediately. So this is the most important thing. I know we are here, and he has to deliver a good season, a good 2 seasons here. This is now what you have to work with. So he had the feeling doesn't come to retire or doesn't come here to remember the good memories that we had. We have time to have the good memories in the future, but now it's time to, shoes on and play your best.
44 games at home, unbeaten, such a good mood after obviously the first win and then also the re-signing of Gundogan. How excited are you for this first home game of the season?
Ipswich Town is only I'm concerned. 2 teams have made promoted the League One to Championship to the Premier League with the same manager, with the clear patterns. It was the team in the first game of the season for all Premier League, the most intense team have. That is only I'm concerned right now. I understand that Ilkay is a highlights today, but since I stand up for this room, Ipswich Town is only I'm concerned.
Talking to some of the other players, Savinho picked up a slight knock and knee injury during his debut. He was back training in midweek. Sort of where is he with his recovery, and will we expect to see him on Saturday? Savinho.
Savinho. Yeah, feels better. I don't think he's completely top, but yeah, I made part of the trainings, and he's developing really well. We will see today, tomorrow, what you're going to do with him.
Hi, Pep. One of Ilkay's quotes, he said that the package that Man City offers nowadays, you can't find anywhere else. Does it surprise you to hear that?
It's a privilege for all of us, yeah. It's an honor to know these words, because the package means the city, means the club means everyone, staff, backroom staff, these buildings and commercials and everything. So I said many times, so the club has been run from Ferran for all the people amazingly, and so me as a manager, I think the players, so they have everything what they need to perform as highest level as possible. This is what the biggest clubs define. The titles, of course, but how we behave daily, day by day, in all the structure. And there are a lot of people working behind us, the manager, especially the players, and that's why it's a comfortable place to be.
It's something that you have said many times, how comfortable the places to work. But it's different when someone goes to a club like Barcelona, comes back feeling the same thing. So you can see that out there, it is different.
I spoke a little bit with Ilkay and having incredible words about Barcelona, about his experience there, for the city, for the people who were there, and for the players. Speak so highly about his experience there, but the situation everybody knows in Barcelona, and it happened. It wasn't expected, so we didn't call Kuhn and said, oh, why? Because I could not expect, because he played really well last season, and still I know how competitive he is, how he drive, his mates to his best. And when it happened, I said, yeah, I love midfield players. I love his qualities. He give us incredible alternative in the way we want to play. He adapted in 2-3 roles perfectly. He knows everything. He doesn't need time to how he settle. Tomorrow has to play. Okay, he knows everything. So that's why it's comfortable for us, and I know his mentality is always in the right position. He doesn't come, as I said before, let's go into the last 2 years here, completely different. I know he will be upset when it's not going well. He will be happy and thinking on to next, when it's going well. So, and that's why he's back one person that has beloved for his mates. Also, is so important. Everyone is so thrilled and happy that he's back. For our fans, I'm pretty sure of that, and yeah, he's going to try to fight again with us.
Hi, Pep. It feels quite sentimental with Ilkay coming back. Another one of your former players is also available. And how likely or possible maybe Raheem Sterling? Any chance you might want to bring him back to Manchester City as well?
He's a Chelsea player, absolutely, a Chelsea player. I know. I feel so attached. But the time we live together with Raheem, and of course I feel attached with Enzo. So I just wish him all the best. But he's of course a Chelsea player. If you ask me this question when Gundo was in Barcelona, I will ask you answer the same.
There is 1 week left of the window. With Gundogan coming in, it's a big reinforcement. But are there chances, or how likely is it that you'll get anyone else in, do you think, in the next week?
I don't know. I don't think so, but what I said before, so I don't know what's going to happen at the end of the market. Maybe happen something in terms of injuries, hopefully not. In terms of, I don't know, the market provided something expected that financially is good for us, or for the tactical wise as well. So right now I don't think so, but I don't know.
Can I finish just by asking about Rodri, because I didn't see him at training in midweek. How is he? Is he back
He's
with the
getting
group
better.
yet? Is he with the group yet?
No, it's not a group. Maybe today will be a partial training, but still is not good.
So not for the weekend?
I don't think so, but we will see today. Now her training at 3, we'll see.
Thank you.
Last one before the embargo, please, Simon.
It's just a quick one.
Okay, great to hear from Pep Guardiola there, his live press conference, and a reminder, 7 days to go in the transfer window. So we have picked 7 clubs who could be busy before the deadline. Stay with us for that. having such a good time here on Transfer Talk. OK, 7 days to go until the deadline closes. And 7 teams who could be busy before the deadline. Who have you got for us? Sam, you're up first.
Well, we have to start with Chelsea because they've been the busiest side in the transfer window. Obviously, they've made quite a few signings, but I think now their main focus is outgoings on, you know, a lot of the players that Enzo Maresca has said aren't really going to be a part of his plans. He's been very honest, he's been very clear to the media, to the players as well. He's kind of left it open with a few players, Noni Madueke especially. Yesterday he said he played well, he likes him, but who knows if there's a good offer that comes in, potentially he could be one of those players. But I think where they've signed so many players now, and like I mentioned earlier, they need to make sure that the harmony of the side is intact and the team know what the future lies for everyone. So, yeah, they're going to be very busy. They're going to be very busy.
I'm interested in what Enzo Maresca said last night about Mykhailo Mudryk. How's that going to affect things? Because he's obviously told players that they're not part of their plans. So Mudryk is in his plans, but, you know, it's obvious he was another one, actually, that was bought in the first window of the Todd Boehly era.
Yeah.
And another one that seemingly hasn't done enough to impress Enzo Maresca so far.
I think it's interesting because he's still so young. And obviously, there is a pressure at Chelsea where even if you have glimpses, which Mudryk has had at times, if you have other glimpses of you not performing to a level that the managers would have wanted, then there's going to be a lot more pressure. And we're not like realising these guys are so young. Like, he's not the only player that is of that age bracket that has had moments, but has also had other moments that might not have been as great. So obviously he's clearly a part of his plans. And I think Mudryk spoke during pre-season talking about, you know, understanding that he's still developing and not really talking about starting every single game. It's more about his development. And I feel like if he accepts that role and accepts that he's still in that stage in his career, then he should be fine.
Just while we're talking about Chelsea, Romelu Lukaku's another one, isn't he? Like, what do you expect to happen with that?
I think we've heard it's been very difficult to get over the line, and I think it's been the case for the last few years because of his wages and the amount of years he has left in his contract. But I think he wants to be reunited with Conte. It was the manager that he's been most successful under. He hasn't reached that tally of I think 30 plus goals since. And you know, every player would want a home. And I think Conte wants that to be his home. So I think there's, you know, both parties are keen on making that deal happen. And there's still 7 days left, so I'm sure they'll figure something out.
You know how we were talking before about Gundogan and is he going to be the same player going back to City? Would that be the same with Lukaku, or do you think a lot's happened since?
I think it's difficult with Lukaku because he's been a player that has been consistent, inconsistent, but still scoring goals. And I think with Napoli and what Conte wants to achieve, we know he's won a lot of trophies and he's already voiced that he's not necessarily happy with their activity in the transfer window. And I think now him getting Lukaku, there's not that many excuses he can say because he's made that clear that that's his main target. They've been successful together in the past. They've still got a few pieces at Napoli, and Serie A is still up and down with some of the teams that are normally up there, Juventus, AC Milan, Inter Milan. So I think that challenge will be good for both of them.
Crystal Palace, James, do you think they could still be busy?
Yeah, well, a lot of the talk at the moment is about exits at Crystal Palace. We know Mark Gay's edging closer to an exit to Newcastle. Joachim Andersen's new move to Fulham is set to be confirmed possibly as early as today. And Jordan Ayew is close to finalising a deal to join Leicester City. Those are three really important players for Crystal Palace. Bear in mind they lost Michael Olise as well earlier on this summer to Bayern Munich. So they will be working hard to bring players in the final days of this transfer window because they made so much progress and built so much momentum towards the back end of last season under Oliver Glasner, playing some brilliant football. They won 6 of the last 7 matches at the back end of last season, lost their opening game to Brentford, and they'll hope that they can continue with the momentum they've been building with Oliver Glasner. So they'll look to strengthen in defence. You'd think they'd be looking at attacking options as well, especially with Olise and Ayew potentially leaving. I know Ismail Assara and Kamada have come in, but I think they will really looking to bolster the ranks there. We know there was an interest in Eddie Nketiah. Whether they're looking for another number 9, we wait to see. But due to be there on deadline day, so hopefully I'll be bringing some good news to Crystal Palace fans.
That plug.
We're going to be... James, any action from Palace? What about Nottingham Forest? Can we see them doing some business in the next week?
I mean, we spoke about it a little bit earlier. Eddie Nketiah is the one that they're really targeting. They wanted a striker. And I actually quite like the business that Nottingham Forest have done in this transfer window. Milenkovic at the back is a really imposing figure, really big physical defender. I think he will prove to be a good signing and also a bargain for Nottingham Forest as well. And then, I think, they're obviously after Eddie Nketiah. I think that looks like it's going to get done. I think they've done some good business.
I think Nketiah will be a really, really good signing for them. I think James mentioned it earlier about the other forwards that they have, the young forwards, who have also been in a position where they've had something to prove. And I think Callum Hudson-Odoi was the prime example of that last season. He really kicked on from, almost being not a want away from Chelsea, but he almost left in a state where people didn't know necessarily where his career would go, and he's proven that he's still got the ability. He can still, play consistently week in, week out. And I feel like Nketiah at Arsenal, all he's ever really wanted is the opportunity to be the main man. And you might not get that week in, week out, but where he averaged, I think it was 40 minutes last season per game, you can't really find consistency like that as a striker. And at this stage in his career where he's 25 years old and, he's got to that point in his career where, yes, a few years ago he was okay being that player that came off the bench and everyone was like, okay, yeah, we've got Nketiah, everyone's in trouble. But now it's like, okay, I want to really be the player that my team relies on and the fans know that I can score goals. So I think that move would be incredible.
Biggest decision of his career, I think, for this, where he goes and what he does next for Nketiah. It could really shape the rest of his career, what happens in the next 7 days. It's that important for him.
Do you think Forest is a good move for him?
Yes, I mean, James talked earlier about Chris Wood. Nuno tends to like more of a focal point up front, so this might be a departure. I'm thinking back to Raul Jimenez and Willian Jose at Wolves during his time there. Obviously, had Harry Kane for a short period of time at Tottenham, but I think it will be a good move because he can score goals. So let's hope for his sake this is exactly where he can flourish, because he's waited long enough, so he deserves it now.
What about Fulham, James?
Well, I think they started the window in a bit of a bad place, losing Dick Cordova-Reid, Tosin leaving on a free, and with Paulinho departing. But it feels like they're ending this window with real momentum. Sander Berg confirmed yesterday. Joachim Andersen could be confirmed today. We know they've agreed a deal with Lyon for Ryan Cherki. He's debating whether or not to come to Fulham or not. But I think the squad looks in a really good place now with Emil Smith-Rowe. He's going to look better week on week. I think he'll end up being one of the best transfers of this window. I think they're looking relatively decent in each area once they've got Anderson through the door. Defensively, they look solid. They've got a great goalkeeper in Leno. Whether or not they feel they've done enough to replace Paulinho, how do you go about replacing him? But with Berger, a player with a point to prove after disappointing times for the clubs he's been at, Sheffield United and Burnley. And in Muniz, they've got a striker who's got plenty of goals in him. So I think they're looking in a good place. There might be a little bit of tinkering in the final days and a couple of deals they're just looking to wrap up over the next 48 hours or so.
Ipswich Town, do they need to do more?
They do, and I think they will. I really like what Ipswich have done. In the last few minutes, we're hearing that they're now in talks with Burnley to sign centre-back Dara O'Shea. He's someone who's been of interest to Wolves. I think Brentford looked at him earlier in the window as well, but they are obviously now going to sign Sepp van den Berg. So they're looking to strengthen at the back. It was Greaves and Wolfenden that started at centre-back, so Dara O'Shea has got a good record, goal-scoring in particular for a centre-back. He would be a good signing. Ipswich now in talks with him, and he will offer a bit more depth. But I really like what they've done. They've cherry-picked some of the best talents from the Championship. Jacob Greaves, I think he's an excellent signing. They're giving a medical to Jack Clark from Sunderland. Omari Hutchinson was so good for them last season to get him done. And then Liam Delap as well. And Sammy Szmodics, they've signed and recruited really well. Really like what they've done.
Even the Sammy Szmodics signing, the fact that it was almost unopposed. The fee was quite low for someone that was so successful in the Championship. And I think some of the signings that they have made in Omari Hutchinson and Jacob Greaves as well, these are signings that they want to prove themselves in the Premier League. And I think that those are the type of signings that these clubs that have come from the Championship should be making, because when everyone's almost going in the same direction with that mentality, it will definitely lead to success. And then on top of that, Broja is looking to come in, so I think that will be a good signing too.
And then Leicester, Dave.
I think they would obviously like to do more. Steve Cooper would like to do more. It's whether they can find room in the budget. We know they're working under some financial constraints at Leicester. Oliver Skipper's come in. Looks like they'd like to bring in Jordan Ayew, but I think more attacking options for their head coach is what they would like in the final 7 days.
And then the 7th team, who we said could be busy, Southampton.
Yeah, they've had a really good window. I think there's some young, promising players they've been able to bring in. I think now goalkeeper is what they're looking for. They're preparing to make that loan bid for Aaron Ramsdale. If they signed him, that'd be a big move for them. Also, discussion to sign finals goalkeeper Justin Barlow. I think it's been a strong window, a strong showing against Newcastle in the opening day. Let's see if they can back it up this weekend.
Strong showing from you as well, James. It's your last show, isn't it? Not ever, just, you know. OK, it's been a great show. Thanks ever so much for joining us. We have got plenty more coming up on Sky Sports News throughout the day. And don't forget, Good Morning Transfers returns on Monday, 9 o'clock in the morning. Transfer Talk also back on Monday at 1 o'clock, so it's a bit of a later time. And then the transfer show, you can catch all of the days roundup. That will be tonight, 5 o'clock and 7 o'clock. And Emil Smith-Rowe's agent will be with Dharmesh Sheth in the studio. So you don't want to miss that. Coming up here, it is Total Football next with David Garrido. And there will be a host of Premier League managers for you next. We've had a great time. Thanks for joining us. Plenty more on the Transfer Centre blog online.